Live from the local station, this is Weather Authority Weekday.
Good Monday, everyone. I'm Meteorologist Mark Collins. Hopefully you had a great weekend. We did have a little bit of Sunday getting shut down by some rain and downpours, but at least it broke the heat. Hey, we're in that rainy pattern, and it's going to continue again today and tomorrow. We might see a little bit of a breakup, lower amounts of rain for Wednesday, but today back into the 90s we go. The pattern continues with the best opportunity for rain starting after 3 o'clock through around 8 o'clock. So it's that early evening time frame around Jacksonville with partly cloudy skies to take you through today. Rain chances are pretty good, up around 40 to 50% here area wide. And we'll see a little less coverage across inland North Georgia. But I think today it's going to be those rain showers building back towards the coast. And before 3 o'clock, most of the activity is going to be well west of the Jacksonville area. So for those of you out towards the I-75 corridor, into areas like around Baker County, over towards Union County, you're going to see your rain between 2 and 3 o'clock today. So that's your early starter. And then as we head towards, say, 4:30 and 5, that rain starts to approach western Duval. We'll get in on that rain action here as we head towards the early evening. Here you can see how those thunderstorms building back towards the coast. And then we could see some our wettest time frame here around 5 to 6 in Jacksonville. And we're not going to leave you out in Palaco or our southern areas around St. Augustine, because there you see that rain covering just about all of our area before we lose the heating. After about 7 to 8, things start to settle down, and we're going to get back to a drier overnight time period. But right now, it's great. If you're getting out and about here for the morning hours, looking pretty good. You see very little texture on the river, so we've got calm winds, and it's just going to be a steamy, kind of humid start to our day. Looking at the big picture, there's going to be a weather system moving out of Arkansas, and once more, that's going to be targeting areas across the Ohio Valley that does not need the rain. They need to dry out. We're going to be talking about, after the break, the heavy flooding that has happened across the Appalachian Mountains around West Virginia. People have lost their lives due to all that flooding, and that's the next system that will be moving in. But that front does not reach us, so we stay in the 90s for the foreseeable future. I don't see one day below 90 degrees, and so even at the beaches today, we're going to be heating up into those lower 90s. So the heat is with us, and when you combine the heat with the humidity, that's your classic formation for some thunderstorms. But the amount of lift can make those storms stronger. And where we see the lift, I've colored in with pockets of yellow and red. And you can see a little bit of a sliver right near the coastal areas, but it's not too volatile. So we could see some stronger, heavier rains closer to the I-95 corridor today, and that would lead to maybe over 1/4 of an inch of rain in some parts of our viewing area. That'd be back from the river towards the coast, where we'll see those heavier rain amounts anywhere between 1/4 to perhaps almost as much as 1/2 inch of rain in some of the heavier elements. So the cloud and rain forecast track is calling for rain to be building in here this afternoon, and then as we head into Tuesday, we'll see another setup. So this is overnight, things settle down tonight. You can see that storm system well to our north, so that does not impact us, but it's our own homegrown thunderstorm activities driven by the sea breezes on Tuesday afternoon, which develops interior thunderstorms. Some of those might not track back towards the coast as much as they will today. So we're going to start to see more of a southerly pattern, which could keep some of those showers inland on Tuesday, and that's why the rain chances drop a little bit lower here through Tuesday, Wednesday, and more so into Thursday. But over the weekend, we're going to get back down to a little bit of a drier setup here as we head towards Saturday and Sunday, maybe not quite as wet as what we've seen here over the prior weekend. If you're headed to the beach today, weather looks good up until around 4 to 5. We're going to be clouding up, so you get the max sunshine here through the early afternoon hours. And watch out, because the UV index is at 11 and the waves are around knee high at most. And that's meaning for a very low risk for rip currents. The good news is that in the tropics, things are all very quiet, and there are really no active waves to track. And so things remain very quiescent over the next 7 days. After the break, we're actually going to be looking at just how odd it is to see any type of storms in June. So we're going to look at the climatology for June and kind of look at when I think the storm season should start to pick up in intensity. All right, so back to the forecast we go here locally. You see that rain will be with us each and every day. It's just the amounts look greatest today and then into Friday. But even tomorrow we'll be dealing with some scattered showers into Wednesday before things start to settle down just a touch here as we head towards the end of the week and for the upcoming weekend. So the picture is more heat, more afternoon scattered showers, and that humidity, which is as thick as, well, you could cut it with a knife. And too bad we can't cut it back because it's going to stay with us the next couple of days. We're going to take a little bit of a pause here, take a break. And then coming up, we're going to be looking at that flooding in West Virginia. And we're going to take a look at the tropical season and what's ahead when I see you shortly. And well, we're back and we're going to be talking about June tropical cyclones, tropical depressions, tropical storms, hurricanes. It all falls under the umbrella of tropical cyclones. The good news is that so far we have not had any development there in the Atlantic or the Caribbean basin. Things have been pretty quiet. Not so last year. 2024, we had 3 storms in June. So things are pretty quiet compared to last year. Usually during the first month of the hurricane season, it is pretty quiet. You get maybe 1 storm at most on average, and they tend to develop in the Gulf of Mexico. I've highlighted that area in yellow that you see. And when we look at last year, all those storms were in the Gulf, but they were on the western side. So we had Alberto, Chris, and Beryl, which all formed in June. What was remarkable last year was something that has never been seen before, and that was Hurricane Beryl, which formed where hurricanes typically form like late in August out over the open Atlantic waters. And Beryl was a rare major June storm. It reached Category 5 strength in the Caribbean Sea. It came across the Lesser Antilles as a Category 4, something you really don't see so early in the hurricane season. Then as June transitioned into July, things were pretty quiet. There were no storms. August, pretty quiet as well, except we had Debbie. Debbie was a system that moved in the Gulf of Mexico, came ashore near Steinhatchee and brought some heavy rains there in the Panhandle. And then once August was over, September came in with some force. In late September, there were several storms, and you can see all those white tracks. Most of those were September and October. And out of the major storms that were 5, all 4 of those happened after September. And that included what was the Milton, which was the strongest category of strength hurricane in any place in the world in 2024. So when you factor in areas like in the Pacific, which sometimes get stronger typhoons than in the Atlantic, it was stronger than any of those storms last year in 2024. And Milton weakened just a little bit before it came ashore there near Siesta Key in West Florida. So you can see those lines targeting Florida. Milton, Helene, Debbie. It was a very bad year for Florida. But usually storms don't pick up in coverage until about after August. So you can see that mountain graph there that indicates that September 10th is the peak of hurricane season. And once we get beyond that, things start to settle down, except in October, which is actually worse for Florida because a lot of those storms tend to curve back from the Gulf and impact Florida during October. And you see that little smaller hump there after October. That's usually Florida's worst hurricane season during the month. Now off towards the West Virginia area where they're drying out after a weekend of catastrophic flooding. They need to dry out and recover from some significant damage that happened there. They're going to get it today. That cold front is bringing in just a very brief reprieve from the rain because future forecast shows more rain coming in tomorrow as low pressure just comes right over the Adirondacks, and that low pressure center moves right there over Pennsylvania, over towards New York, and there you can see some rain coming in for Wednesday. It's not going to be as heavy as what could come in later in the week on Thursday. So Thursday, places like Pittsburgh and Wheeling. Wheeling was ground zero for torrential rainfall where 3 inches of rain fell in a very short amount of time. But that is going to be a system that we're going to be watching here later in the week as this cold front comes through. That could bring an end to the rain. But let me show you some pictures of what was happening there with all this flooding. This is something you would think would be like a hurricane type of rains there, but 5 people in West Virginia lost their lives, including a 3-year-old. Unfortunately, the search is still ongoing for those bodies. You can see how swiftly the water was moving, and it can sweep anything away, including cars and people. So roofs were toppled. The worst of the flooding hit on Saturday night in Ohio County. That's about 50 miles west of Pittsburgh, and that location 4 inches of rain fell in just a half hour's time. So that's what we call flash flooding, when the rain falls so quickly it doesn't have time to follow the typical droughts that civil engineers use to drain out a heavy rainfall. Florida, sometimes we can handle that 2-inch rain rate, but even here where our soil is very porous, in places like in Pennsylvania, it's really hard rock, and that water can't drain out very quickly. So there is a flood watch in effect for what I just talked about, that additional rain that's going to be coming through. And for those folks that have been impacted, emergency management crews are watching. They're trying to get as much repairs done as possible. But some of the emergency managers are saying this was the type of flooding that they have never seen before in that area. So it is the rainy season up there. For us, it's just our own typical sea breeze type thunderstorms. We can get to some heavier downpours, and we could see those again today, but not expected to see any flash flooding. And there you see a beautiful view over our beaches where, the beach is calling you. If you've got some time off today, go ahead and make the most of it. Thanks for watching us here on Weather Authority Weekday. I'm meteorologist Mark Collins. Hope to see you again tomorrow.
See why every day more people are choosing News 4 Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.